Welcome back to Life and Death with Reverend Natashia Mack. I tuned in to see what this episode wanted to be, and all I kept hearing was the body speaks, the body speaks. So, I guess that's what we are going to be talking about today. And I feel like if you come across this episode, it was for a reason, because maybe your body has been trying to speak to you, and maybe your body has been trying to tell you something. Because what happens when your intuition, your soul's voice, is trying to whisper to you, and we ignore it and ignore it? It needs to get louder. And that means your body gets involved, and your body tries to get you to pay attention and to listen. I know that there are so many people living with debilitating illnesses and symptoms and different, you know, physical pains, diseases, whatever it is. I hear you, I see you, and I've been there. Just with what I've experienced with cancer, as well as endometriosis, PCOS, insulin resistance. And I want you to know that with everything that I'm about to share, it's coming from a loving space, it's coming from a non judgmental space. I also don't ever want to make anyone feel like they're the ones who caused whatever it is that they are dealing with, because that is not helpful. It's not about pointing blame, and it's not about making someone feel bad for or worse for what they are experiencing, what they have to deal with every day. It's about sharing another perspective, something helpful and supportive, and maybe different from what you've been told so far on your journey. It's like, I just want to open up discussion for, yeah, a different perspective, and for something that could support you, something that could help you where you're at. This may not apply to everyone, though, because everyone is navigating something completely different. I also want to say, like, and preface this with the fact that I am someone who received a ton of medical intervention and treatment for her cancer. So I understand there is a need for medication. There is a need for doctors and specialists and surgery and all those things. I never want to come across as some like spiritual guru who says you can like miraculously heal yourself with brain power and nuts or something. Like, you know what I'm trying to say though? Like, even people who do everything quote unquote right, who live a completely holistic lifestyle, and, they eat all organic and like all of that, they too can experience illness and disease and like things that are just maybe part of their genetics, or or, caused by the outside world and just the pollution in the air or whatever. Okay. That all needed to be said because it's important to be realistic about the world we're living in today. And, going back to my experience with like super rare cancer that started in the gland of my eyelid, and it had this like super rare mutation. They had never seen anything like this before, especially in the gland of an eyelid, to the point where some of the like top specialists out there in Toronto didn't know what to do with me. They didn't know the best, like, yeah, like the best form of treatment, or like how to deal with it, because they just didn't know. They haven't seen a case like mine. And that's not me being like, I'm just so super special. I'm just so rare. It's just to kind of, um, explain to you like how rare of a case, my cancer was. And like something I experienced early on in my journey with that was I had this like super spiritual person comment under my video saying that, you know, I can't remember word for word, but something along the lines of how I must have manifested that. Like it's a physical manifestation, from being a highly sensitive person. Basically, putting the blame on me, I must have manifested it. That is so fucked up. Like, that is so wrong and unhelpful and unsupportive. And, like, if you want someone to feel like this small, go ahead and say that to them. Um, no, I'm just kidding. Don't say that to anyone. It's awful, awful to be told that. And that's why I gave my little spiel of like, I'm going to preface this because I think that's really important. Anyways, I've also been told by this very religious person, um, who is also a very toxic person and who is like the least Christ-like ever, tell me that I must have, or, this is God's way of punishing me for doing the devil's work. Also very, very messed up and messed with me for a while. Um, to the point where that actually had to come up in therapy because when I was in treatment, I wanted to give up. I absolutely wanted to give up. I think it was around this time last year, actually. I think I was like 3 weeks in and I was like, I didn't think I could do it. Um, Anyways, so I got therapy through the, oncology department basically. And I had to talk about that, like, is this a punishment? Like, why? Why do people get cancer? And I'll never forget, she's like, there's no way it could be a punishment because think of all the innocent children every day who get cancer, who die from cancer, who get horrible illnesses. There's no way that it could ever be a punishment. Cancer is just cancer and it doesn't discriminate, right? And that really resonated with me. Even as a very spiritual person, that really resonated with me. So, anyways, trying to like also back up at the same time and figure out where I was going with that. Um, Another thing I experienced Okay, I was gonna like cut that part out, but honestly, I think I just need a moment. I just need to like take a breath because I'm talking about things that are clearly gonna bring up stuff for me, and it's gonna be like a lot for my nervous system. But I just looked at the time and it says 1:23, which is 123, and I was like, you know what? That's my sign that I just need to like show whoever's listening that it's okay to just need to pause and take a breath to kind of collect yourself and get back to what you're trying to talk about, what you're trying to convey. So I invite you to do the same. Let's take a nice deep breath in and let go. Okay, I remember now. Perfect. So the other thing that I wanted to share is that, you know, the cancer popped up. So this lump on my eyelid popped up. I swear it was like a week after starting using a brand new mascara. It was a mascara that had a lash growth serum in it. Okay. And it was my first time ever using this mascara. And I thought that it caused a sty. Like I thought that's what that lump was. And so I was like trying to, I stopped using the mascara right away. And I I tried all these like different things to help clear it up, like people say baby shampoo, um, tea bags, like warm compresses, like whatever. There was so many different ways to clear that up, but it just wouldn't clear up. So then I just started like living with it and accepting it and letting it live like rent free on my eyelid. Anyways, I think of that often, how it showed up after starting to use that mascara, especially considering the fact that like my lashes on the lump were so much longer. Like they were growing super squirrely, like really long and crooked and weird. Like they just wouldn't stop growing. I actually had to trim them because they wouldn't stop growing, but only where the lump was. Okay. So I would bring this up to my specialist, like, could it be from this mascara? They said, no, the cancer would have already been there even before the lump appeared. They kept denying, denying, denying. So, but it makes me wonder, like, could it be from that? But then there's also part of me that's like the curious part of me and the spiritual part of me, the one who looks into energetics and is very in tune with that. And I've sat with, okay, like, what is my body trying to tell me? Like, what could this be from, right? What could this be a manifestation of something or whatever? Although anytime I sat with that, nothing would come through, and I think I brought this up actually in the very first episode about maybe someday it'll come to me, but it just hasn't. And so I just trust in the divine timing of that because maybe it is from the mascara. Maybe it is just something that happens. Like, I don't know. And I don't think any of us will ever know the ultimate truth, right? Either way, what happened, happened. And my mind is going blank again. I know there was another point. Oh, yes. Okay. It just came to me. Thank you for your patience, by the way. Um, the other thing that I thought of was how the cancer appeared at a time in my life when everything was falling apart. This was around the time where I kind of separated from a best friend and I was kind of going through like an existential crisis. It was around the time when everyone was kind of going from like new age to like an extreme religion, like a lot of people were going from new age to Jesus, but not just like Jesus, but like full on religion, like extreme. And it was a time where I was just navigating so much fear and so much discomfort. And so, I often think of that too. Like, how weird is it that it appeared at such a significant and pivotal, time in my life where I was kind of like leaving one world and entering a new one with very wobbly legs, a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, and a lot of just like unknown. So this was like end of 2021. But it wasn't until um October, yeah, it was like a whole year because it was like November 2021 when it appeared. But then I got confirmation it was cancer in October of 2022. So it was like a year of just trying to get back up on my feet, struggling tremendously in my business, leave again, like figuring out this new world because of how much I had left behind and had to like relearn. There was just a lot of change happening. So that also, makes me wonder. And this is why, like, I feel these conversations are so important. I really don't feel like there's just this one truth, this one way. We need to talk about it from different angles and be open to hearing different perspectives, right? The other thing I want to share with that, though, by the way, this isn't going at all the way I thought it would. Um, yeah, I did not expect to share all this, but this is what's coming through, and I'm just going with it. Um, the other thing I want to share, and I know I've shared this in like different ways before, but now that I'm on the other side of that journey, I see the purpose in it all. I see how God was still using me for good. I know that sharing my journey and my story all along the way was so impactful for others. I know that going through what I did completely reversed certain health issues I had. I know that it completely grounded me into my humanness and made me that much more grateful for life, for my life, but also life itself. There's so much good that came out of that entire journey. And I can now say how grateful I am. Like, just so overwhelmingly grateful. Something that didn't fully correct. Okay, I'm going to kind of switch it up here with something else I've navigated for years. So, my cycle for the past several years, kind of, when the cancer journey started, like all of that stress, all of the turbulence in my life, everything I navigated, even the surgeries, like, damn, that's like so hard on your body every single time you get put under anesthesia, right? And I was under anesthesia. I hope I'm saying that right. 4 times and from 2023 to 2024. Yeah. Wait, that's a lot in just that short amount of time. Um, Like that's insane. And then going through the radiation and everything. So, anyways, my body went through so much. My hormones were completely wrecked. I had gained so much weight. I had so much inflammation in my body. I swear it felt like I was wearing one of those like sumo suits. Like it just felt like I wasn't like it wasn't my body. Like it felt like this layer of protection. Like my body's trying to protect me, so it's piling on the weight to protect itself, you know? I used to be so flexible though. Um, and it came to the point where like I could barely like like my legs were so not flexible anymore. Like my whole body, I felt like a little old lady. Like everything was so stiff, so uncomfortable. And so yeah, my cycle got affected. I'd go months without a period. Sometimes I'd ovulate 2 or 3 times, before ever having a period. Um, the pain I'd go through from like having a uterus that was that inflamed and swollen. Oh, and meanwhile, so I did mention, endometriosis, but also adenomyosis. So, like, endometriosis is like when the uterine lining is growing all on the outside of the uterus, like on your organs and stuff. But then adenomyosis is like that uterine lining that's supposed to like shed. It's like you're bleeding inside the muscles of your uterus. So that's why it just like continues to grow. Anyways, very uncomfortable stuff. So I was navigating all of that pain at the same time as well. And so when I went through treatment, I didn't have a single period that whole time because your body will just know, like, okay, you're in survival. We don't have time to have a period, you know? And so that was okay. But then going through treatment, I kind of starved. Not just kind of, I starved, you know, uh, for 6 weeks. I lived off of like yogurt and beets, cooked beets. That really carried me through because my taste buds were completely wrecked. My saliva was disgusting and slimy, but also at the same time non-existent. It was really weird. My throat was completely blistered and cooked, burnt to a crisp. I had sores all over, like all on the inside of my mouth. Anyways, it's almost like that period of time and everything I went through gave my body time to almost like correct itself in some way. Maybe it was the fasting. I know, like, biblically, guys, this is kind of weird, but you know, look at how many cultures fast for long periods of time. I'm correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure, there's a story of Jesus fasting for an extreme length of time. That's like a thing, right? And it's weird, but my hormones seem to balance out. All that unwanted weight kind of start to fall off. My mind, despite like what I deal with from having, all that radiation pointing to my brain, it did feel clearer. Like I had mentioned before, it feels like so much got burned away. Like so many old versions of myself got burned away. I felt renewed on a cellular level. And so after that happened, like after treatment and everything, I did end up finally with a period. And all of a sudden, each time I had a cycle, they got closer and closer together. And all of a sudden, my cycle was every 28 days, like exactly. So that was weird to experience for the first time in forever. And then I kept getting the nudge to, you know, get therapy, like start seeing a new therapist. So I kept putting it out there, like waiting for um someone who could really support me in the deep way I needed to be supported because I have gone through many different counselors and therapists, psychologists like throughout my lifetime. And I wanted someone who could hold space for me the way, like, I know this sounds weird, but the way I hold space for people. I wanted someone who could be slightly intuitive and who could help me go deeper because I believe in the connection of mind, body, spirit. And I believe our body speaks to us, and there are things we carry in our bodies, that end up kind of manifesting into different things, right? With exceptions, of course. But, anyways, I'm just sharing my personal experience of how I knew that my body was holding on to things that needed to be released. And the other thing is, I was really praying for support with the endometriosis because even though my periods had finally started to get normal, the endometriosis was starting to cause other issues, and those seemed to be getting worse. So, oh, there we go. So I, you know, worked with my specialists, my doctors. I asked for a new gynecologist. I asked to be referred to an endometriosis specialist, although that didn't end up happening, but I did end up with a new gynecologist, someone who would hear me out because my previous one was only offering birth control, and birth control has never, like for some people, that might be what they need on their path, but for me, it has never felt right in my body. And I have to honor that. I have to listen to that. So I wanted someone who would help me get to the root of the problem. And so that's what I kept praying on, praying to God, like, hey, like, can you please help me with this? Because I was so tired of living with that pain. And I really am I'm someone who's so determined to like figure things out or to come up with a solution. I do not accept band-aid fixes. Like there's a reason for it. Let's get to the root. Anyways, sometimes when you pray for things, when you get, when you then get this like guidance or intuitive nudges, whatever, it doesn't always seem related to what you've been praying for. And this is so important. So, so important to know and to remember. Because maybe some of you listening, you know this already, but I'm reminding you. Sometimes you pray for something and the answers you get aren't what you expected, or you think it has nothing to do with what you've been praying for. Listen to it anyways. So, like I said, I was getting the nudge to get therapy. Finally, I see someone I know who I have a lot of respect for. She posted about who she sees as a therapist. And I just felt so drawn to this woman. And I was like, okay, I think this is the one. And I check her out and I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I book a call with her right away. I meet with her. I can't believe how powerful that one session was. Like it actually still blows my mind. I've had three or four now, and each one is just so impactful. But I remember that first one, there was so much anger coming through, like that I needed to talk about. Like I remember I was just like finally saying all these things that I needed to say that I've held on to. And so much of it was connected to, mother wounds and things like that. Not that I'm going to get into that, but she would, like, whenever I would talk about something, she would guide me to my body and, like, where do I feel that in my body? Where am I holding that in my body? And so each time I would notice that and be like, oh, I'm feeling it here, or like, oh, I'm feeling it there. And then finally we get to this point where I'm like, I feel it in my uterus. And I could see in my mind my uterus being this like hard, blown up balloon. Like it was so hard, so inflamed, and so painful. And it was like big and swollen because of all the anger that I've been carrying. And so she guided me through like giving myself what I needed in that moment and, just like further releasing what I needed to release. That night, I had a dream that I was pulling pieces of popped balloon out of my right ear. That is the area where my cancer had spread to, like the right side, the whole right side of my face. That's where it was all affected. I was literally pulling out pieces of popped balloon. That showed me my subconscious was trying to tell me that I've released a whole lot. Like there's no coincidence there. And even the fact that it was coming out of the right ear specifically, like that's insane to me. So I kept doing these sessions and I started to notice a physical relief. Like things started healing. You guys, I'm not even joking. Certain things that were happening stopped happening. It's just, it's mind blowing how my body's been correcting itself as I follow my intuition, as I pray about these things and then take action on what my intuition is guiding me to do. My body is literally correcting itself miraculously, and it's wild and it's like weird to talk about because I don't feel like it's talked about enough. So there's that part. And then another thing, another like mind-blowing experience I had. My aunt, she invited me to go see this like healing health practitioner guy in the town next to where I live. And she's like, "Come on, like it'll be fun. Like let's go do this." I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Like I'm down for whatever. Why not?" And anyways, so we go do this. Like we contact him, we make an appointment, we go in. We're expecting to go in together. That doesn't happen. He's like, "No, like it's best if you're like one at a time. Keep in mind, I had no idea what to expect, neither did she. And she does her session first. Takes about an hour. I'm like waiting for her to be done. And then it's my turn. I go in, sit down, get comfortable. He guides me through this questionnaire. I answer it, and that kind of helps him determine what direction we need to take. And then he asked me, what emotion do you want to focus on? What emotion do you want to focus on releasing? Like, which one's really coming up for you right now? And I was like, anger. Like, that was, man, that was a theme back in January. It was, yeah, clearly coming up to be released. So it turned out to be like a hypnosis, but like a timeline therapy sort of hypnosis where we went back to my earliest memory, the very first time I experienced anger in this lifetime. I saw myself in my mother's womb. I'm not even kidding. And I was seeing her like as if I was like astral projecting to this moment. I could see her in the house she would have been living in. I was feeling all of her emotions and experiencing what was going through her mind. And he guided me through recognizing that it wasn't mine to carry, and that I wasn't a burden. And I was able to comfort her and say to her what she needed to hear, but that I was also able to do that for myself as a unborn baby. And what's weird is he asked me like when this was, and it was in February. Well, I was born in March, so it would have been right before I was even born. So that was wild. And then he's like, okay, how many lifetimes, did you experience like anger, like where that was kind of the theme? And there was 7 of them. He literally took me through every single one of those lifetimes where I got to see who I was, what I experienced, how I died, and what I learned from those lifetimes. And I was able to clear all the anger in every single one of those lifetimes, clear away any like unhelpful things from those lifetimes. And I'm not going to take you through every single one because it was a lot. It was so much. And I could actually like connect a lot of the dots from those lifetimes to this one. Like there's things that I think and feel and experience, even fears I have, where I'm like, wow, that's where that's from, you know? Anyways, the very, so the day before that is when I had a very powerful therapy session with my new therapist. And then, you know, the following day I had that hypnotherapy, like timeline clearing thing. That night, the pain started. Crazy pain on my left side, my left ovary. My body was starting to, like, one of my ovarian cysts were starting to rupture. I know that pain because I've experienced it many times before. Every single time I have ever done any sort of deep healing, like deep healing or clearing of like trauma and, emotions that were extremely impactful in my life. Like anytime I've ever healed or cleared that, whatever, an ovarian cyst will burst. And so, of course, it happened. And that was rough. That was really, really rough. So rough it ended up um, I ended up starting my cycle right after that. And it was just that reminder to me like, wow, my uterus clearly carries so much and holds on to so much. And anger, which by the way is something, I felt anger throughout my whole life, but I had never, ever given myself permission to express it. It was just something so deeply uncomfortable to me. And what I see in my mind now when I talk about it is that anger growing like vines, like from my uterus onto my organs and all these other places. And so I feel like clearing that helped clear those vines and helped clear that anger that I've been suppressing and just storing away in my body. And again, since then, things have been miraculously shifting and getting better. It's wild. Like, it's just so wild to think of how the things we carry can literally impact our health. And again, this is not to like point fingers and be like, oh, it's all your fault, whatever. No, absolutely not. But at the same time, there's this like freedom and empowerment with realizing, like, okay, I may not have caused this, but what if the power is in my hands to heal this or like make this better or alleviate it a little? Like, what if there is something I can do to help this, especially in this day and age where I don't know about you guys, but my experience with the medical system has not been easy. And that's not to say that it's all bad, because it isn't. I have met angels on earth, you know, the team at the cancer center, literal earth angels, the sweetest people you'll ever meet. So kind, so loving, so patient, so caring. But then I've had other experiences where I've been gaslighted, where I've been so unsupported, where I wasn't heard, where I had to fight to be heard, where I had to advocate for myself because I was being tossed aside. I am someone who has a hard time accepting, nope, this is it. Nope, now you have this label, or like, nope, this is the way it is, and there's no cure, and you got to live with this. And I know I'm not the only one. I know many people who have healed themselves from so many diagnoses that were meant to be not necessarily like a death sentence, but, just things that they were meant to just accept and live with and live a life in pain and misery. Like I know people who've healed themselves from those things. But then to actually experience it is like a whole other thing. Our bodies are so intelligent. I want to share another experience from another therapy, actually, the most recent therapy session I had. I had this massive realization, huge, life changing, about something I've inherited, like a mindset, a story that I've inherited from my mother that I then took on as my own. When I realized the possibility, the potential of no longer having to carry that or make that story mine, it actually changed something in my brain. Not just my brain, but my whole nervous system responded with so much relief. It's like something I had never even considered. I never considered that I didn't have to carry that or that it wasn't mine. My whole life, it's like chains broke free. Angels were singing. It was like just crazy. And when she asked me to like tune into my body, with how all that felt, I swear, I'm going to sound crazy, but whatever. I swear I heard from my organs. They were all like, okay, guys, we can work at regular capacity now. Like, we can all work how we're supposed to now. And what I've learned about like the body and the nervous system and everything is when you are in survival, certain organs will work at a lesser percentage so that others will work at a higher percentage. Like things just kind of become out of balance, and certain things will overcompensate and other things will underfunction. And so it was so wild to, in that moment, experience this response from my internal organs, kind of like communicating with one another. Again, I'm going to sound crazy. I don't freaking care. They were communicating with one another like we can all work at normal capacity now. Like we can all function at the rate that we're supposed to. So that really blew my mind. And again, was like proving to me, because why would I even think of that in that moment? Like, how can I just make that up in that moment? Of all the things that could come to me, that is what came to me. So yeah, that was just like another form of evidence for me that, like, oh, I'm making progress. I'm making progress. And it doesn't mean everything is perfect right now, but it's about progress over perfection, right? Like, I'm not in perfect health, but I've made so much progress. It's crazy. The other thing I've, you know, I've realized is I also started marriage counseling. It's like I needed individual therapy, but I also needed couples counseling. And not because me and my husband were, at the point of like divorce or whatever. It was more for like a preventative thing. I am someone who likes to fix, and we were having issues with communicating because, like, I've grown so much as an individual. Keep in mind, me and my husband have been together for 18, going on 19 years now, okay? We are not the same people we were back then. We have both grown and evolved and done so much healing, but it came to a point where we no longer knew how to talk to each other. And we were like triggering each other's inner childs and stuff. And so I just felt like, okay, we're at a new point in our relationship where we need to now learn how to communicate with each other, and we need some guidance on that. And that's okay. Because yeah, things were okay, but what if they can be even better? And we both are like cycle breakers in our family. Like we want to teach our kids healthy communication because me and my husband have never witnessed healthy communication ever, or even healthy ways of dealing with, differences of opinions and not aligning on certain things. So that is another thing I've noticed has just been so supportive for my nervous system and my life in general. Like things just feel like there's just so much more flow because of that support with the communicating. And I've realized, okay, I'm so glad I listened to my intuition to start marriage therapy, but like not only for my relationship with my husband, but I'm actually learning tools on how to communicate better with just other adults in general, right? In other relationships, which is amazing. I think that's so important. And those are tools that I definitely needed. So that is having an impact on my body as well. All of this to say, the body does speak. It truly does. And what if I told you that some of the things you're dealing with, I want to be careful with my words here. What if you can experience some relief by trying a different form of healing? Like, what if you still continued with like your doctor's appointments and like, your medications, whatever it is, but also tried talking to someone or like, yeah, trying like different healing modalities, started focusing on the emotional healing, knowing that our bodies, again, are so intelligent. They carry trauma, they carry emotions, they carry shame, they carry grief. Grief is such a perfect example of how our bodies are physically affected by emotions. Look at people who suffer through grief. What happens to them? It ages you. It completely, it has the power to like really mess with your body, to really bring you down, to give you physical pain and aches to the point where it's hard to get up out of bed. What we carry has the potential to really cause pain and harm. And again, disease, illness, or just symptoms. Like, even if we like remove the labels and like had a look, like dug deeper to those symptoms and where you're feeling them and what they are, you might discover that your body is trying to tell you something. And again, this might not be everyone's truth. This may not be everyone's reality or experience. And I completely honor and respect that. My job right now is to be of service in this way by sharing this perspective and my experience and just what I've learned over the years, as well as being a vessel for messages from from the other side, from God. And I just want to invite you to like go deeper. I want to invite people to connect to those different parts of your body that are causing you pain or that are screaming out for your attention. Because, like, what if you gave it a voice? What if you, like, literally just took a moment, close your eyes, took some deep breaths, brought your attention to that space or those spaces one at a time, asked it what it was trying to tell you or like what message it has for you, and notice what comes through. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's a word, an emotion, and just keep going deeper. Keep hearing it. Give it the opportunity and the space to speak to you and to be heard. And then from there, like navigate it intuitively. What does it, what does that part of you need to hear? How does it need to be supported? It's going to feel like you're making it up. It always does when it comes to intuition. It always feels like you're making it up because it's like, well, it's my own voice. Yeah, because it's you. Or that's too easy. Well, maybe it's meant to be that easy. Maybe it's something you've already known and you've convinced yourself you've been making it up, but you're not making it up. The answers truly are within us. And if you can't access them yourself, pray on it and allow it to come to you. Allow the answers or the guidance, right? The action steps that are going to lead you to those answers to come to you. Another thing that's like really strongly coming to me right now to share, which has been a very common theme. So it's important to talk about. So our bodies will sometimes reject our partners if they are not aligned for us. And not just partners, it could be workplace. Your body will suddenly start to, like, you can develop rashes, infections. You're getting sick all the time. Just, like your body will react if something is out of alignment. Because what happens is your intuition will very softly try to tell you there will be signs. But then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're not hearing it. We're not hearing it. And our bodies start physically reacting and responding to it, right? It's just not, it's just not for you. I've seen women mostly because it's usually women who I work with. I do work with men as well, but again, it's been mostly women I've come across who they come to me for support and it turns out that they're in a extremely toxic relationship and they look like they're wasting away. And that's not me judging. That is me witnessing someone, their life force energy being sucked out of them, their body just so stressed or undernourished because their body is having a physical reaction to the toxicity of their relationship. Constant yeast infections or UTIs, those could be signs as well. Not always, okay? Not always. This doesn't mean if you're in a healthy marriage and you keep getting UTIs that, oh, it must be, I'm in a toxic marriage. No, no. Sometimes, again, there's medical things as well. But again, it's a very common thing. And, even someone close to me, unfortunately, I've I've witnessed them go from being vibrant and connected, to God and always wanting to bring joy to others and being active and adventurous and involved and just, you know, be kind of like a bright shining light for people, to all of a sudden their body is just shutting down. They're getting sick constantly. This is so hard to talk about. You know, they're in an extremely toxic relationship and it's showing. It just completely changed their life for the worst. And of course, I can only share as an outsider from what I witness, from what I feel and see from it all. But the changes have been so drastic. It's so, yeah, it's really hard to talk about. But, I was thinking of that actually last night, and how I was like, I wonder how I can kind of, talk about this. It's just the most perfect example. And yeah, so it's weird how I'm like talking about it now, but again, the body speaks, right? So I feel like, the fact that, okay, we're moving into this like great awakening, and we are being called to stop abandoning ourselves. The future is psychic, right? Illusions are being dropped. We are, like, our intuition is being enhanced and turned on. Discernment is being used. Like, all these things are going to be taking place. And so, of course, it makes sense that we also need to talk about this. Because I do feel like people are going to start to open their eyes to this, that, oh, maybe we do have a part in healing ourselves. A part, right? Again, living in this world means also, getting, like I said, getting support from your medical team. Like, surgery is life changing, medication can be life changing, all of that. It's about balance, though. Like, I'm realizing, like, okay, I also have to do my part. If I want to fix this, if I want to heal this, if I'm feeling this call, this mission, this fire inside of me to not accept this diagnosis, I got to lean into that. And maybe that's part of my purpose here, because our purpose is so dynamic. And maybe this, like I said, maybe this is part of mine, is to be a vessel for this too, to kind of go through the experience myself, but then to share with you guys, like, hey, here's what I experienced, and here's what's possible for you too. I actually want to give a shout out. So much of what I've learned over the years too, just about like the nervous system and like supporting our bodies and like getting to the root and stuff, I've learned from my dear friend Monique Hessler. I highly recommend. Sorry, recommend checking her out if you are someone who is also passionate about getting to the root. Like, she had been diagnosed with like 10 different things at one point, and she now doesn't have any of them. And like, I don't want to share her story for her, but I know that there are ways you can connect with her and like hear her story and learn more about her. Um, and I mean, I don't get paid to say any of this. I just I just adore her and believe in her, and she's so heart-centered. And I truly believe in like spreading the word about these incredible heart-centered people who have a clear mission and who are here to be of service and who use what they've been through for so much good. And she is one of those people. So, yeah, you could find her on Instagram at Monique Hessler Wellness. So definitely check her out, because that's a really good place to start, you know? And then, of course, like if you are someone who is wanting a bit of like a bit more personal guidance, you're wanting to kind of hear what your own intuition has been trying to tell you. I'm your girl. That is like part of my specialty is literally, holding space and being a voice for your intuition to help you like when I share things that you've already had coming through and you're like, whoa, that's like literally, I've already been hearing that. I've already been feeling that. I've already been knowing that. But then I gaslight myself or I tell myself I'm crazy or I avoid it, whatever. But when you hear me say, hey, this is what your intuition has been trying to tell you, you start to that's when your relationship with trusting it more starts. You're like, "Oh, that's what it sounds like. Oh, that's what it feels like. I could start trusting this. I could start listening to this." So that is like something I hear all the time over and over again. Going and getting a reading, my opinion, is it's supposed to be impactful, obviously, empowering, obviously, but also for me to like remind you of your own connection and your own personal power. It's meant to be supportive and again to kind of amplify your own intuition. So that's something that could be very helpful as well. Of course, it doesn't mean you have to, get one with me, but, find someone you feel drawn to, find someone you feel connected to. I think that's really important. Just like I did with, you know, I was getting the nudge to start therapy, but I knew like, it couldn't just be like a regular therapist, but I couldn't figure out what exactly it was that I was looking for until I saw it. I saw the post and I was like, wow. When I read about her, I'm like, you're the one, you know? And she ended up being such a significant part of my journey. So I invite you to do the same thing. You know, Pray on what it is that you need support with when it comes to your health or what you're dealing with your body, and then be open to being guided and led to who is going to be the one who's like meant to support you along the way. You might feel drawn to acupuncture. You might feel drawn to therapy. You might feel drawn to um, going to the gym. You might feel drawn to just start walking, like, or getting massages. There's so many things that are there to support you on your path. And it doesn't mean, okay, you try something and you have to stick with it. Sometimes it's like, okay, I try this and then it leads me to the next thing. But it's all very intuitive. And this is part of your journey of you trusting yourself again. This is part of your journey of like healing yourself, but not just mentally and emotionally, but also physically. Like, remember that we are a mind, body, spirit package deal. Like we are spirit first in a human body, here to have a human experience. And like our bodies are so incredible, they're so intelligent. Your body doesn't mean to hurt you, it doesn't mean to fail you. It's not a personal attack. I promise you with my whole heart. And this makes me so emotional because I have so felt that, as a woman who's experienced miscarriage, as a woman who has had cancer, as a woman who has been in toxic relationships, um, as a woman who's experienced having her power taken away. Um, who suffered abuse and trauma, I hear you and I see you. And I just, I just want, I just want people to know that we can heal things and we can recover and we don't have to be held prisoner to all that we carry and all that is stored in our bodies. So, yeah, I'm uh I'm gonna leave you with that for now. As I feel like this is a lot. This was like so much more than I thought was gonna come through, but I fully trust that this is how it was meant to be. And I truly hope that you're able to take something from this, or maybe even know that you're hearing this so that you can share it with someone else. Like maybe you are the messenger who's going to deliver this to someone who truly needs to hear it. And I want you to trust that, okay? Like send it to someone who needs to hear it. Because I know you are so intuitive. You know, your gut knows when like something ain't right. Like guaranteed you have like a friend or a loved one or a family member or someone who it's so obvious that their body is trying to speak to them, right? Like we're all connected, we're all intuitive. We know when something's off. And so, again, maybe you're going to be the messenger who sends this to someone who needs to hear it. And maybe next time you get that random shoulder pain, you're going to be like, I'm going to like see why, like what this is. It's knowing that, okay, I didn't hurt myself, right? Like maybe there wasn't something that happened that caused it, but it's there. Okay, I'm going to take a moment to lean into this. I'm going to like let it speak to me. I'm going to see what's going on. Oh, it turns out I'm carrying too much on my shoulders. I'm carrying grief. I'm carrying worry. I'm carrying shame, whatever it is. And you're going to kind of hold space for it so you can release it. Maybe it's your knees. Maybe it's your back. Whatever it is, maybe headaches, maybe you're getting constant headaches. Okay, tune into your body. What is it that you're consuming that could be connected to that? Act like a detective. Approach it with curiosity, not judgment, knowing that, okay, maybe there's something I'm consuming that is triggering these headaches. Again, not always, but sometimes. And I believe if you came across this, it's for a reason. So, again, I'm going to leave you with this. Please let me know if you listen to this, if you enjoy this, if there's a huge takeaway or aha moment. I love to hear from you. I love your feedback. And yeah, this is just like one episode on this topic out of many because I know that there's going to be more. So if you have questions, don't be afraid to submit those either. I would love to answer your questions. And if I can't answer them, I would love to get someone on the show who can potentially answer them for you. So there you have it, guys. I am sending you so much love. Um, I hope that wherever you're at, you show yourself grace and patience and love. Okay. See you on the other side.